It was a late afternoon in Paris in November 2007, when the bustling crowd at Gare du Nord began to notice the presence of a small girl sitting alone on a bench. She looked lost, her wide eyes scanning the faces that hurried past, her small hands clutching a worn-out backpack resting in her lap. The expression on her face was unmistakable. Desperation, mingled with a silent plea for help. Yet, for a long moment, one dared to approach. The station was alive with the usual chaos of travelers, announcements, and the distant rumble of trains, but something about this solitary figure seemed out of place, a quiet cry in the midst of the city's relentless rhythm. The girl, no more than 8 years old, wore a blue winter coat that hung awkwardly on her thin frame, its sleeves swallowing her hands. Her brown hair was tangled and unwashed, framing a face marked by fatigue and uncertainty. In her hands, she held a crumpled note, its edges soft from repeated folding and unfolding. The note was written in French, but the words were incomplete, almost as if someone had started to write directions and then changed their mind. All it said in shaky handwriting was, "Go to the south of Paris." Minutes ticked by as passengers glanced her way, some with curiosity, others with indifference. Finally, a woman, perhaps in her mid-30s, paused in front of the girl. Her eyes softened with concern as she knelt to the child's level and asked if she needed help. The girl shook her head, retreating into herself. The words she managed to say were muffled and unclear, as if she was struggling to remember how to speak at all. The woman, heart heavy with worry, called over a nearby police officer. The girl was taken to the police post inside the station. But the mystery only deepened. She carried no identification, no address, nothing that might link her to a family or home. Her backpack contained only a few clothes and the mysterious note. No one had reported a missing child matching her description. The authorities searched for clues throughout the city, but every lead seemed to dissolve into nothing. The note, with its vague instruction, led nowhere. The girl's origins remained a blank page. Days passed, and the case grew more perplexing. No family came forward, no neighbors or friends recognized her from the descriptions circulated by the police. She seemed to have appeared out of thin air, a child with no past, no future, and no one to claim her. The only word she repeated over and over was mother. Sometimes she whispered it. Sometimes she cried it out in her sleep. It was clear she was searching for someone, or perhaps trying to remember someone she had lost. The police brought in experts to speak with her, hoping to unlock memories or clues that might lead to her identity. But the girl's speech was fragmented, as if she were piecing together a language she'd half forgotten. She was frightened of adults, shrinking away from their questions, answering only in the softest of voices. The only other hint she gave was the name of a distant street somewhere in the French countryside, a name that meant nothing to the investigators, but which she repeated with a desperate insistence. As the investigation stalled, the girl was placed in a temporary care center. The staff there noticed her unusual behavior. She avoided eye contact, flinched at loud noises, and seemed always to be listening for something, as if expecting someone to call her name. Despite the trauma she had endured, there was a spark of hope in her eyes, a sense that she was waiting for someone to find her, to bring her home. The breakthrough came by chance. A police officer, reviewing evidence late one evening, found an old letter tucked inside a donated book at the public library. The letter, dated 1999, was addressed to a woman whose name matched a faded photograph found in the girl's backpack. The contents of the letter were cryptic, speaking of fear, a journey, and the need to protect a child. There were no addresses, no clear details, but it was enough to suggest a link between the girl and a woman who had vanished years earlier. When the girl was shown the photograph, her reaction was immediate. She stared at it for a long time, then began to draw, her small hands sketching scenes that matched the descriptions in the letter. Fields, a small house, a woman with kind eyes. It became clear that she had a deep emotional memory of her mother, even if she could not articulate it in words. The investigators began to piece together a new theory. This was not a simple case of abandonment or neglect. The girl's mother had been running from something, perhaps from danger, perhaps from her own past. The note in the girl's hand was not a careless instruction, but a desperate attempt to guide her daughter to safety. The incomplete directions and the cryptic letter pointed to a life lived in fear, always on the move, always looking over one's shoulder. As more pieces fell into place, a private detective hired by a local news outlet uncovered a crucial detail. The woman in the photograph, the girl's mother, had once been accused of involvement in illicit activities. Fearing for her life and her daughter's safety, she had gone underground, cutting ties with everyone she knew. The blue coat the girl wore was not just a piece of clothing, it was a shield, a last gift from a mother who had tried against all odds to protect her child from a world she could not control. The final piece of the puzzle came when the authorities tracked down a woman living in a small village in southern France. She was the girl's aunt, separated from her family years before by circumstances beyond her control. When she learned of her niece's plight, she rushed to Paris, her heart aching for the child she barely remembered. The reunion was quiet, almost hesitant. The girl, at first, did not recognize her aunt. But as the days passed, a bond began to form. The aunt spoke gently, telling stories of the girl's mother, of the family they had lost, and the hope they still carried. Gradually, the girl began to trust again. She spoke more, her words becoming clearer as she felt the warmth of belonging for the first time in months. The story of the lost girl at Gare du Nord became a symbol in Paris, a reminder of the resilience of children, the power of hope, and the importance of compassion. The city, so often indifferent to the suffering that passes through its streets, paused to remember that every lost child is someone's daughter, someone's hope for the future. In the weeks that followed, the girl settled into her new home with her aunt. She began to attend school, to make friends, to rediscover the simple joys of childhood. The nightmares that had haunted her sleep grew less frequent, replaced by dreams of laughter and sunlight. She kept the photograph of her mother by her bedside, a silent promise that she would never forget where she came from, or the love that had carried her through the darkest of times. The investigators, reflecting on the case, realized how easily such stories could be overlooked in a city as vast and busy as Paris. They vowed to look more closely, to listen more carefully, to remember that behind every mystery is a human life, fragile and precious. For the girl, so the journey was not over. She would carry the scars of her ordeal for years to come. But she also carried something stronger, the knowledge that she had survived, that she had been found, that she was loved. In her quiet moments, she would whisper the word "mother," not as a cry of loss, but as a prayer of gratitude for the woman who had risked everything to keep her safe. Her story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, to the bonds that connect us even when all seems lost. It is a reminder that hope can endure, even in the most unlikely of places, and that the smallest act of kindness, a stranger stopping to ask if a child needs help, can change a life forever. In the end, the girl's greatest wish was fulfilled. Not just to be safe, but to be seen, to be known, to be loved. And in that, she found the beginning of healing and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. This story invites us to reflect on the hidden struggles that surround us, and to remember that sometimes the greatest gift we can offer is simply to care, to notice, and to reach out a helping hand. For in doing so, we may become the answer to someone's silent prayer, the light that leads them home.